Captain Lee Minho stood at the command center window, watching the enemy ships fill the dark space around New Busan. The alien fleet stretched as far as his eyes could see. 847 warships from 12 different worlds, all pointing their weapons at his home. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Coalition arrived. 3 months of threats, demands, and slowly tightening their grip around the planet. The aliens wanted the humans to surrender completely. They wanted to control every human colony in this part of the galaxy. Lee Minho rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept well in weeks. How could he sleep when 2.5 million people depended on him? His wife and 2 young children lived in the city below. His parents ran a small farm on the northern continent, all of them trapped just like everyone else on New Busan. "Sir, the planetary shields are at 60% power," reported Lieutenant Park Suman from her station. "The generators are old. They were never meant to protect against this many ships." Lee Minho nodded. The shields were failing slowly. Everyone knew it. The aliens knew it too. They were waiting, like hunters watching a wounded animal. Dr. Park Ji-won walked into the command center carrying her data pad. She looked worried, which was never a good sign. As the colony's best expert on alien species, she had been studying the coalition forces since they arrived. "Captain, I need to show you something," she said quietly. "I intercepted some of their communications last night." Lee Minho followed her to a quiet corner. Dr. Park Ji-won activated her data pad, and alien voices filled the small speakers. The EI translation software worked slowly, changing the strange sounds into human words. "The example must be clear," said one voice. "Other human colonies must see what happens when they refuse to obey. Broadcasting the destruction will be most effective," agreed another. "Every human world will know the price of resistance." Dr. Park Ji-won turned off the recording. Her hands were shaking slightly. "Captain, they are not planning to accept our surrender. They want to destroy New Busan completely. They want other human colonies to watch us die." Lee Minho felt cold anger growing in his chest. These aliens talked about killing millions of people like it was just business. Like human lives meant nothing at all. "How long do we have?" he asked. "The shields will fail completely in 2 weeks, maybe 3, Dr. Park Ji-won replied. "After that, we have no protection." Across the city, Commander Kim Hyun-soo was having his own meeting, but his meeting was secret, held in the basement of an old warehouse. 15 people sat around a metal table, all members of the underground. Resistance. "The evacuation ships are still blocked," reported one woman. "The aliens shoot down anything that tries to leave the atmosphere." "What about the hidden bunkers?" asked Kim Hyun-soo. "Ready for 3,000 people, maybe 4,000. "If we pack them tight," answered an older man. "But that is nothing compared to the millions on this planet." Kim Hyun-soo slammed his fist on the table. "There has to be something we can do. We cannot just sit here waiting to die." A young technician raised her hand nervously. "Sir, I have been monitoring deep space communications. There are rumors from other human worlds, stories about a secret project, something the Earth government has been working on." "What kind of project?" Kim Hyun-soo asked. "Nobody knows for sure. But some people say it involves new technology, advanced ships that can fight the aliens on equal terms." Kim Hyun-soo shook his head. "Even if that is true, how would it help us? Earth is 6 months away at the fastest speed. We will be dead long before any help arrives." The meeting continued, but everyone knew the truth. New Busan was alone. The nearest human fleet was too far away. The planet had only a few old patrol ships, nothing that could fight a massive alien fleet. Above the planet, Admiral Tekvar commanded the coalition forces from his flagship. The reptilian Saurian was known for his cold efficiency. He had destroyed 3 rebellious worlds in his long career. New Busan would be the 4th. "Status report," he ordered with his harsh voice. "The human shields continue to weaken," reported his tactical officer. At current rate of decay, they will fail in 14 days. And the blockade? Complete, sir. No ships have escaped in 47 days. All communication with other human worlds has been cut. Admiral Thekvar looked at the blue and green planet below. Such a beautiful world. It seemed wrong that humans had claimed it. Humans bred too fast, spread too quickly across the galaxy. They needed to be controlled, or better yet, eliminated. Prepare the broadcast equipment, he ordered. When we destroy this world, I want every human colony to see it. I want them to know what happens when they challenge the natural order. His officers moved to obey. Soon, the execution of New Busan would begin. Back on the planet's surface, Lee Minho returned to his family's apartment after 18 hours at the command center. His wife, Song Yeon-jin, was putting their children to bed. 6-year-old Minji and 4-year-old Junho had no idea how much danger they were in. Daddy, when will the bad ships go away? Minji asked as he tucked her into bed. Lee Minho forced a smile. Soon, sweetheart. Very soon. But he did not believe his own words. How could he tell his daughter that the bad ships were never going away? How could he explain that grown-ups from other worlds wanted to hurt them just because they were human? Song. Yeonjin followed him to the kitchen after the children were asleep. How bad is it? She asked softly. Lee Minho sat down heavily at their small table. Very bad. The aliens plan to kill everyone. They want to make an example of our world. His wife sat beside him and took his hand. Then we fight, however we can, for as long as we can. With what? We have 3 patrol ships and some mining equipment. They have 800 warships. We fight anyway, Song Yeonjin said firmly, because we are human, because this is our home, because our children deserve to grow up free. Lee Minho squeezed her hand. She was right, of course. Even if they could not win, they had to try. It was what humans did. They never gave up, no matter how hopeless things looked. Late that night, something strange happened. The Deep Space Monitoring Station picked up an unusual signal. Dr. Park Ji-won was still working when the alert came through. What is it? She asked the technician on duty. Unknown contact, approaching from the outer system. Very fast, very strange, energy signature. Dr. Park Ji-won studied the readings. The approaching object was moving at incredible speed, but something about its energy pattern looked familiar, like something she had seen before but could not quite remember. How long until it reaches us? She asked. At current speed, about 6 hours. Dr. Park Ji-won activated the emergency communication system. She needed to tell Captain Lee Minho about this immediately. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just another alien ship coming to join the blockade. But something deep in her heart whispered that this was different. Something was coming to New Busan. Something that might change everything. The countdown to destruction continued. But for the first time in 3 months, a small spark of hope flickered in the darkness. The unknown ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a ghost appearing from nowhere. Coalition sensors immediately tried to scan it, but the readings made no sense. The vessel seemed to flicker in and out of existence, sometimes showing up clearly, sometimes disappearing completely from their instruments. Lieutenant Choi Dae-ho worked at the communications station aboard Admiral Thekvar's flagship. Unlike most coalition officers, he came from a species that had once been allied with humans. His people had been forced to join the coalition after their homeworld was conquered. He still remembered the kindness humans had shown his family during the war. Admiral, Choi Dae-ho reported nervously, the unidentified vessel is not responding to our scans properly. Our sensors cannot get a solid lock on it. Admiral Thekvar turned his cold reptilian eyes toward the lieutenant. Explain. The ship appears to be shifting between different dimensional phases, sir. Sometimes it shows up as a small patrol vessel. Other times our sensors read it as something much larger. The energy signature is completely unknown. On the surface of New Busan, Dr. Park Ji-won had not slept since detecting the approaching vessel. She sat in the monitoring station, drinking her fifth cup of coffee and studying the strange readings that kept changing every few minutes. Captain Lee Min-ho arrived at dawn, looking as tired as she felt. "What do we know about our visitor?" "Not much," Dr. Park Ji-won admitted. "The ship is definitely artificial, definitely advanced, but the technology is unlike anything in our databases. It does not match any known alien design." "Could it be human?" Dr. Park Ji-won paused before answering. "The quantum signature has elements that seem familiar, but it is far beyond anything Earth has ever built. If it is human, then our technology has advanced by hundreds of years overnight." Lee Min-ho studied the display screen showing the mysterious vessel's approach. "How long until it reaches the blockade?" 3 hours, maybe less. Above them, the coalition fleet was preparing for the unknown contact. Admiral Tekvar ordered all ships to battle positions. Whatever this vessel was, it would not be allowed to interfere with the destruction of New Busan. The mysterious ship continued its approach, ignoring all attempts at communication. Its strange energy patterns made coalition targeting systems malfunction. Weapons officers reported that they could not maintain a proper lock on the target. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, "the unknown vessel has just accelerated beyond anything in our records. It will reach our perimeter in 20 minutes. Admiral Tekvar felt a cold worry growing in his scaled chest. In 30 years of space warfare, he had never encountered a ship that could confuse their sensors so completely. "All ships, prepare. To fire on my command," he ordered through the fleet communications. "Whatever this thing is, we will destroy it before it can interfere." The unknown vessel suddenly appeared in normal space, right at the edge of the coalition blockade. Now, for the first time, their sensors could get a clear reading. The ship was large, easily the size of a coalition battlecruiser. But its design was completely unique. Smooth curves instead of angular military lines. A hull that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. Most disturbing of all, the ship's weapon ports were already open. Admiral Tekvar opened a communication channel to the unknown vessel. "Unidentified ship. You are entering a restricted military zone. Identify yourself immediately or you will be destroyed." For long moments, there was no response. The coalition fleet waited, weapons charged and ready. Then, finally, a voice came through the communication system. A calm, human voice that spoke with quiet confidence. "This is Captain Seo Jiho of the UHS Retribution. You have 4 minutes to withdraw from human space." Silence filled the coalition command centers. A single human ship, outnumbered 800. To one had just ordered them to retreat. Admiral Tekvar laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. "Human captain, you must be insane. We have 847 warships. You have 1. Surrender immediately and we might let you live long enough to watch your colony die." Captain Seo Jiho's voice came back, still perfectly calm. "I said 4 minutes. The countdown starts now." On New Busan, Dr. Park Ji-won was monitoring the communication. Her hands shook as she heard the human captain's words. "He cannot be serious," she whispered. "One ship against their entire fleet." But something about the captain's voice convinced her that he was completely serious. There was no fear, no uncertainty, just cold determination. Commander Kim Hyun-soo and his resistance fighters had gathered around their hidden radio equipment, listening to the exchange. "Who is this captain?" asked one of them. "What kind of ship is the Retribution?" Kim Hyun-soo shook his head. "I have never heard of it." But listen to his voice. He sounds like a man who has already won this battle. Aboard the Retribution, Captain Seo Jiho stood on his bridge surrounded by his crew. Every officer at their station showed the same calm readiness as their captain. These were not ordinary humans. They moved with the precision of people who had fought impossible battles before. Weapons status? Captain Seo Jiho asked quietly. All systems charged and ready, sir, responded Weapons Officer Nam Soyoung. Targeting solutions calculated for all 847 enemy vessels. Engineering? Quantum displacement drive is stable, Captain, reported Engineer Yoon Tae-hyun. We can maintain phase variance for the entire engagement. Dr. Kang Minwoo looked up from his science station. Captain, the quantum resonance patterns are perfect. The enemy sensors still cannot establish proper targeting locks on our position. Captain Seo Jiho nodded. Everything was ready. His crew had trained for this moment for years. They had traveled across dimensions for this chance to save a human world. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining, he announced calmly over the open communication channel. The coalition fleet began moving into attack formation. Admiral Tekvar could not believe what was happening. A single human ship was challenging his entire armada. The arrogance was beyond comprehension. All ships, target the human vessel, he ordered. When the countdown reaches 0, we will show them the price of such foolishness. But coalition weapons officers were having problems. Their targeting computers kept losing lock on the retribution. The ship seemed to exist in several places at once, as if it was somehow spread across multiple dimensions. On New Busan, Captain Lee Minho received an encrypted message on his personal communicator. The signal was coming from the mysterious human ship above. Keep your people's heads down, cousin. Time to remind the galaxy why they should have left us alone. Lee Minho stared at the message in confusion. Cousin? He had never met Captain Seo Jiho. How could they be related? And what did he mean about reminding the galaxy? Dr. Park Ji-won was studying the quantum readings from the retribution when something clicked in her memory. She had seen these patterns before, but not from any ship. These were the theoretical signatures that appeared in research about parallel dimensions, about alternate timelines. Impossible, she whispered. Then louder, Captain Lee, I think I know what this ship is. What do you mean? The quantum signature. It matches theoretical models for interdimensional travel. This ship did not come from our galaxy. It came from somewhere else entirely. Another timeline, maybe even another universe. Above them, Captain Seo Jiho continued his countdown. 2 minutes remaining. This is your final warning. Admiral Tekvar had heard enough. All ships open fire. Destroy that arrogant human immediately. 847 coalition warships turned their weapons toward the lone human vessel. Energy cannons charged, missile tubes loaded, and plasma weapons reached full power. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon was about to focus on a single ship. But the retribution did not try to run. Instead, it began to change. The ship's hull seemed to ripple like water. Multiple images of the vessel appeared in space, as if several identical ships existed in the same location. What is that? Gasped the coalition tactical officer. Unknown technology, admitted the science officer. Our sensors are reading multiple targets, but they all occupy the same space. Captain Seo Jiho's voice came over the communication channel. One more time. There was something different about it now. Something sad and angry and determined all at once. You should have left us alone. You should have let humans live in peace. But you chose war. Now you get to see what humans become. When you take away everything they love. The countdown reached 90 seconds, and the retribution began its attack. The countdown clock showed 60 seconds when the retribution truly revealed itself. What the coalition fleet had thought was one ship suddenly became 5, then 10, then 20 identical vessels. Each image was solid and real according to their sensors, but they all occupied slightly different positions in space-time. Admiral Tekvar watched his targeting displays go completely insane. What kind of technology is this? He demanded. His science officer could barely speak. Sir, they appear to have weaponized quantum mechanics itself. The ship exists in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously. Our weapons cannot target something that is not completely in our reality. The Coalition fleet opened fire anyway. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked through space toward the human vessel, but most of the shots passed harmlessly through the phased images of the ship. Only a few weapons found solid targets, and those hits were absorbed by shields that seemed impossibly strong. Weapons Officer Nam So-young sat at her station aboard the Retribution, calmly selecting targets. Her console showed all 847 enemy ships with perfect accuracy. The quantum targeting system could lock onto vessels across multiple dimensions. "Captain, I have firing solutions for the entire enemy fleet," she reported in a steady voice. "Begin the first wave," Captain Seo Jiho ordered. "Target their command ships first." The Retribution's weapons were unlike anything seen before in galactic warfare. Instead of energy beams or missiles, the ship fired concentrated bursts of quantum disruption. The weapons did not destroy their targets in the traditional sense. They simply caused enemy vessels to stop existing in normal space-time. The first salvo hit 12 Coalition command cruisers. The ships did not explode. They did not burn. They just vanished, as if they had never been there at all. On New Busan, Dr. Park Ji-won watched her instruments in amazement. "The enemy ships are not being destroyed," she told Captain Lee Min-ho. "They are being displaced from our dimensional reality, pushed into parallel space where they cannot affect our universe." "Is that even possible?" "Apparently it is. This human ship has technology that is centuries beyond anything we have ever seen." 45 seconds remained on the countdown. The Retribution accelerated toward the Coalition fleet at speeds that should have been impossible. The ship moved like it was immune to the normal laws of physics. Engineer Yoon Tae-hyun monitored his quantum drive systems. "Displacement field is stable, Captain. We can maintain multi-dimensional presence for as long as needed." Dr. Kang Min-woo looked up from his science station with something like wonder in his eyes. "The quantum resonance is perfect, sir. We are successfully existing in 17 different dimensional phases. The enemy cannot predict our position because we are in multiple positions at the same time." Captain Seo Jiho moved through his ship like a ghost of vengeance. His crew worked with mechanical precision, each person focused entirely on their task. They had done this before, many times, but never to save a world that still had hope. 30 seconds. The Retribution reached the outer edge of the Coalition formation. 200 more ships simply ceased to exist as the human vessel passed through their ranks. The remaining alien commanders began to panic. "All ships, retreat to minimum safe." "Distance!" Admiral Tekvar ordered frantically. But retreat was impossible. Something was interfering with their hyperspace drives. They were trapped in normal space with a ship that could rewrite reality itself. Lieutenant Choi Dae-ho watched the destruction with growing horror and secret satisfaction. His own people had suffered under Coalition rule for decades. Watching the mighty fleet get destroyed by a single human ship felt like justice. "Admiral," he reported, "our hyperspace drives are not responding. Something is preventing dimensional translation." "Impossible. Nothing can block hyperspace technology across such a wide area." But it was happening. The Retribution was not just attacking with quantum weapons. It was somehow controlling the space around the entire battle zone, preventing any Coalition ship from escaping. 15 seconds left. The human ship continued its deadly dance through the enemy formation. Every time Coalition weapons tried to target it, they found empty space. The Retribution existed everywhere and nowhere, striking from angles that did not make sense. Commander Kim Hyun-soo and his resistance fighters watched from their hidden bunker as streaks of light filled the sky above New Busan. "How many ships has it destroyed?" asked one woman. "Over 400, Kim Hyun-soo replied, checking his scanner readings. "In less than 4 minutes, one human ship is wiping out the largest Coalition fleet ever assembled. The remaining Coalition commanders tried everything they could think of. They attempted ramming attacks, but the Retribution simply phased out of normal space when enemy ships approached. They tried surrounding it with overlapping fields of fire, but the human vessel appeared in dimensions their weapons could not reach. 10 seconds. Admiral Thekvar realized that his entire fleet was going to die. Somehow, impossibly, a single human warship was about to destroy 800 alien vessels in exactly 4 minutes. "Emergency transmission to Coalition High Command," he ordered desperately. "Unknown human technology. Request immediate reinforcement." But his communications officer shook his head. "Sir, our subspace transmitters are being jammed. We cannot contact anyone outside this system." 5 seconds. The Retribution had eliminated over 700 Coalition ships. The remaining vessels tried one final desperate attack, charging directly at the human ship with all weapons blazing. Captain Seo Jiho watched them approach with cold eyes. "Weapons Officer Nam, prepare the final strike." "Yes, sir." Quantum displacement. Torpedoes armed and ready. Fire. 4 seconds. 3 seconds. 2 seconds. The last wave of Coalition ships simply vanished from existence. Not destroyed, not disabled, but removed from reality itself. In the space of 4 minutes, the most powerful alien fleet in the galaxy had been reduced to empty space and floating debris. 1 second. "Time," announced Captain Seo Jiho quietly. The battlefield fell silent. Where 847 warships had threatened New Busan, only the Retribution remained. The human ship hung in space like an avenging angel, its quantum fields still rippling with contained power. On the surface of New Busan, Dr. Park Ji-won stared at her instruments in disbelief. "They are all gone," she whispered. "Every single Coalition ship, eliminated in exactly 4 minutes." Captain Lee Minho felt tears running down his face. His world was safe. His family was safe. Somehow, impossibly, they had been saved by a single human ship with technology that seemed like magic. Commander Kim Hyun-soo and his fighters emerged from their bunker to see the clear sky above. For the first time in 3 months, no enemy ships filled the darkness. "Who were they?" asked one of his people. "I do not know," Kim Hyun-soo replied. "But they are human, and they just proved that we are stronger than the entire galaxy thought possible." Aboard the Retribution, Captain Seo Jiho looked down at the blue and green world they had saved. In his timeline, New Busan had been destroyed. His own family had died when the Coalition burned this world to ash. But here, in this reality, the planet was safe. "Captain," reported Communications Officer Lee Soyan, "we are receiving transmission requests from the planetary surface. They want to know who we are." Captain Seo Jiho was quiet for a long moment. How could he explain that he came from a timeline where humanity had lost everything? How could he tell them that his crew consisted entirely of people whose families had been murdered by the same aliens they had just defeated? "Open a channel to the Planetary Defense Coordinator," he finally ordered. "It is time to introduce ourselves properly." The 4-minute battle was over. But the real story was just beginning. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had capabilities far beyond anything they had imagined. And the humans of New Busan were about to discover that they had cousins from another reality who refused to let any human world suffer the fate that had befallen their own. In those 4 minutes, everything had changed. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and the Coalition would never again underestimate what humans could accomplish when they were pushed too far. The Retribution moved slowly toward New Busan, its quantum fields finally stabilizing into normal space. Captain Lee Minho stood in the Planetary Defense Center, staring at the massive ship approaching his world. Up close, it was even more impressive than the sensor readings had suggested. The vessel was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Captain Lee Minho," came a voice over the communication system. "This is Captain Seo Jiho. of the UHS Retribution. Permission to establish orbital. Position above your world. Permission granted, Lee Min-ho replied, his voice shaking slightly. Captain Seo, on behalf of New Busan, I want to thank you. You saved 2.5 million lives today. There was a long pause before the other captain responded. We could not save our own world. At least we could save yours. The strange sadness in Captain Seo Ji-ho's voice made everyone in the defense center look at each other with confusion. What did he mean about not saving his own world? Dr. Park Ji-won had been studying the quantum readings from the Retribution for hours. The more she analyzed the data, the more impossible it seemed. Captain Lee, I need to share my findings with the crew of that ship. The quantum signature patterns are unlike anything that should exist in our reality. What do you mean? I think Captain Seo Ji-ho and his crew are not from our timeline. The dimensional displacement patterns match theoretical models for parallel universe travel. They came here from somewhere else, somewhere very different from our reality. Lee Min-ho felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying they are from an alternate timeline? That would explain everything. The advanced technology, the quantum weapons, even why Captain Seo knew to call you cousin. In their timeline, you might actually be related. An hour later, Captain Seo Ji-ho transported down to the planetary surface. The technology his people used was as advanced as everything else about them. Instead of traditional transporters, he simply seemed to phase into existence in the defense center lobby. Captain Lee Min-ho was waiting for him, along with Dr. Park Ji-won and Commander Kim Hyun-soo. When they saw Captain Seo Ji-ho in person, the family resemblance was obvious. He looked like he could be Lee Min-ho's older brother. You look exactly like my cousin back home, Captain Seo Ji-ho said quietly. Same face, same eyes, same stubborn expression. But he died 3 years ago when the coalition burned our version of New Busan. The room fell silent. Dr. Park Ji-won had been right. This man was from a different timeline entirely. Tell us what happened in your world, Lee Min-ho said gently. Captain Seo Ji-ho sat down heavily in one of the chairs. For the first time since his arrival, he looked tired. The weight of command and loss showed clearly on his face. In our timeline, humanity expanded too quickly. We made the same mistakes you made here. We built colonies faster than we could defend them. When the coalition decided to stop human expansion, we were not ready. He paused, staring out the window at the city below. They started with the outer colonies. Worlds like New Busan were easy targets. Far from Earth, lightly defended, full of families who just wanted to build new lives. Dr. Park Ji-won leaned forward. How many worlds did they destroy? 47. Human colonies in the first year. Over 50 million people dead. Captain Seo Ji-ho's voice became harder. The coalition broadcast the destruction of each world to terrify the remaining colonies into surrendering. Commander Kim Hyun-soo clenched his fists. The same plan they had for us. Exactly the same. When New Busan was destroyed in our timeline, I lost my wife and children, my parents. Everyone I loved was on that world. Captain Seo Ji-ho looked directly at Lee Min-ho. Your alternate self died trying to defend the planetary shields. He held them for 6 hours longer than should have been possible. Lee Min-ho felt tears in his eyes. In another timeline, another version of himself had failed to save his family. What happened after that? Earth tried to negotiate. The government thought they could find a peaceful solution, but the coalition wanted complete surrender, total human submission to alien rule. Captain Seo Ji-ho stood and walked to the window. When Earth refused, they came for the homeworld itself. The silence in the room was complete. Everyone understood what that meant. How many humans survived? Dr. Park Ji-won asked quietly. Maybe 2 million, scattered across a dozen hidden colonies. The coalition thought they had won. They thought humanity was finished. Captain Seo Jiho turned back to face them. They were wrong. Colonel Han Woo-jin materialized in the room using the same phase technology as his captain. He was older, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. The survivors spent 200 years developing new technology. We studied every battle, every defeat, every human death. We learned from our failures. 200 years? Lee Min-ho asked in amazement. Time moves differently between dimensions, explained Colonel Han Woo-jin. We had time to build, to plan, to create weapons that could fight back against impossible odds. Engineer Yoon Tae-hyun appeared next, carrying a data pad filled with technical information. We learned to weaponize human adaptability itself. Every species in the galaxy has limitations built into their biology and technology, but humans can adapt to anything. We turned that adaptability into our greatest weapon. Dr. Park Jae-won studied the technical data with growing excitement. You learned to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. You gave yourselves quantum flexibility that makes you impossible to target effectively. That was just the beginning, Engineer Yoon Tae-hyun replied. We also learned to manipulate time on small scales, to phase matter between different states of existence, to turn human creativity into a literal force of nature. Captain Seo Jiho walked back to the group. But it was not enough to just survive. We needed a purpose, a reason to keep fighting when everyone we loved was already dead. So you started traveling to other timelines, Commander Kim Hyun-soo realized. Looking for human worlds you could still save. This is our 43rd alternate timeline, Colonel Han Woo-jin confirmed. In some realities, humanity never left Earth. In others, we made peace with the aliens early. But in 12 different timelines, we have arrived just in time to save human worlds from coalition attacks. Communications Officer Lee So-yeon phased into the room, her equipment already active. Captain, the galactic communication networks are going crazy. News of our victory here is spreading faster than coalition sensors can stop it. She activated a holographic display showing news reports from dozens of alien worlds. The reports were all saying the same thing. A single human ship had destroyed the largest coalition fleet ever assembled in just 4 minutes. The galaxy thought. Humans were weak, Captain Seo Jiho said with grim satisfaction. They thought we were just another species that could be conquered and controlled. Today they learned that they were wrong. Dr. Park Ji-won looked at the technical data again. Captain, this technology could change everything. If we could build ships like the Retribution, humanity would never have to fear alien conquest again. That is exactly what we intend, Captain Seo Jiho replied. We have come not just to save your world, but to share what we learned, to make sure that no human timeline ever suffers the fate that befell ours. Lee Min-ho felt hope growing in his chest for the first time in months. What happens now? Now we teach your people everything we know. We help you build defenses that can protect not just New Busan, but every human world in this galaxy. Captain. Seo Jiho looked out at the city again, where families were celebrating their survival. In our timeline, we learned too late that humans are strongest when we work together, when we refuse to let any human world stand alone against impossible odds. Engineer Yoon Tae-hyun was already working with Dr. Park Ji-won, sharing technical specifications that would advance human science by centuries. Colonel Han Woo-jin was discussing strategic planning with Commander Kim Hyun-soo, talking about how to coordinate the defense of multiple human colonies. Communications Officer Lee So-yeon continued monitoring galactic news networks. Captain Coalition, High Command is calling for emergency sessions. They want to understand what happened here. Some alien governments are already requesting immediate peace negotiations with humanity. Captain Seo Jiho smiled for the first time since his arrival. Good. Let them be afraid for once. Let them wonder what other capabilities humans might have hidden away. The revelation was complete. The crew of the Retribution were human refugees from a timeline where their species had lost everything. But they had spent 2 centuries turning that loss into strength. Now they were here to make sure that this timeline's humanity would never face the same fate. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in months, the humans of New Busan could look up at the stars without fear. 6 months after the 4-minute battle, the galaxy looked completely different. News of the Retribution's victory had spread to every inhabited world, changing the balance of power throughout known space. The Galactic Coalition, which had ruled, through fear and overwhelming force for centuries, suddenly found itself asking for peace negotiations. Ambassador Park Soo-hyun arrived at New Busan aboard the newest Earth diplomatic vessel. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for never backing down from difficult negotiations. As she stepped off her ship, she could see the massive form of the Retribution still hanging in orbit above the planet. "Ambassador, welcome to New Busan." Captain Lee Min-ho greeted her at the spaceport. He looked different now, more confident. The man who had once worried about failing planetary shields now wore the uniform of a sector admiral. "Admiral Lee," she replied with a slight bow. "I hear you have some very interesting guests to introduce me to." Lee Min-ho smiled. "Captain Seo, Ji-ho and his crew have been busy. Wait until you see what they have built." The shuttle ride to the orbital construction facility took 20 minutes. What Ambassador Park Soo-hyun saw there made her catch her breath in amazement. Dozens of ships were under construction, each one incorporating technology from the Retribution. These were not copies of the dimensional warship, but new designs that combined human creativity with quantum engineering. Captain Seo Ji-ho met them at the docking bay. In 6 months, he had changed too. The terrible sadness that had marked his face was still there, but now it was balanced by something that looked like hope. "Ambassador Park, welcome to our shipyard," he said. "These vessels represent the future of human space defense." "They are beautiful," she replied, studying the sleek ships through the observation windows. "How many can you build?" "As many as humanity needs," replied engineer Yoon Tae-hyun, who had joined the group. "We have shared all our manufacturing techniques with Earth's industrial centers. Within 2 years, every human colony will have ships capable of defending themselves." Dr. Park Ji-won had been promoted to head of the new Human Technology Development Center. She walked them through the facility, explaining how quantum displacement drives were being adapted for peaceful uses, as well as military ones. "The same technology that makes our ships impossible to target also makes them perfect for exploration," she explained. "We can reach distant galaxies safely, establish colonies in places no other species can survive." Commander Kim Hyun-soo, now Colonel Kim Hyun-soo, was training the first class of quantum warfare specialists. These were humans from colonies throughout the sector, learning to operate technology that most alien species could not even understand. "The key is not just the machinery," he explained to the visiting ambassador. "It is the human ability to adapt, to think creatively under pressure. That is what makes these ships so effective." But the most important changes were happening in the galaxy's political centers. Ambassador Park Soo-hyun had spent 3 months negotiating with coalition representatives who were desperate to avoid another confrontation like the one at New Busan. "They are terrified," she explained to Captain Seo Ji-ho during a private meeting. "For centuries, the coalition maintained power by being the strongest force in the galaxy. Now they know that humans have technology they cannot match or counter." "Captain," Seo Ji-ho nodded. "Fear can be a useful tool for peace, but only if it is balanced with respect. We do not want the galaxy to hate humanity. We want them to understand that we will defend ourselves, but we prefer cooperation to conflict." Communications Officer Lee Soyeon had been monitoring diplomatic channels throughout the galaxy. Her reports painted a picture of rapid change in interstellar politics. 17 species have withdrawn from the coalition in the past 4 months, she reported. They want to establish independent relationships with humanity. 12 other species are requesting human protection from coalition retaliation. The most significant change came when Admiral No Ji-hoon arrived with the Earth Defense Fleet. These were traditional human warships, but they had been upgraded with quantum shielding and dimensional sensors based on retribution technology. "Admiral Lee," Admiral No Ji-hoon said as his flagship entered New Busan's system, "Earth Command sends their compliments. The new ships are performing beyond all expectations." The sight of 50 human warships arriving in formation sent a message throughout the sector. Humanity was no longer a scattered collection of vulnerable colonies. They were a united species with the technology and determination to defend their interests. Dr. Kang Min-woo from the Retribution had been working with Earth's best scientists to develop new applications for quantum technology. His research was producing innovations that went far beyond military applications. "We can use quantum manipulation to terraform worlds faster than ever before," he explained to a gathering of colonial administrators. "We can create sustainable ecosystems in places that were previously uninhabitable. Human expansion no longer needs to be limited by environmental concerns." But perhaps the most important development was the memorial that Colonel Han Woo-jin helped establish on New Busan. The memorial honored not just the victims from his own timeline, but all humans who had died fighting for freedom throughout the galaxy. "We remember them not with grief, but with determination," he said at the memorial's dedication ceremony. "Their sacrifice taught us that humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our weapons. It is our refusal to give up, no matter how impossible the odds appear." Captain Seo Ji-ho stood before the memorial wall, reading names that included alternate versions of people who were still alive in this timeline. His wife and children from another reality. His parents. His friends. All gone in his world, but safe in this one. "Captain," Admiral Lee said quietly, joining him at the memorial, "do you ever regret coming here? Do you wish you could return to your own timeline?" Captain Seo Ji-ho was quiet for a long moment before answering. "In our timeline, we learned that the dead cannot be brought back, but the living can be protected. Every human world we save, every family that stays together, every child who grows up free, that is how we honor those who were lost." The political changes continued throughout the year. The Galactic Coalition formally requested peace negotiations with the Human Federation. Species that had once viewed humans as primitive upstarts now sought trade agreements and mutual defense treaties. Ambassador Park Soo-hyun successfully negotiated humanity's first equal status treaty with the major galactic powers. For the first time in history, humans would be recognized as a major galactic civilization with full rights and protections. "This treaty establishes human space as sovereign territory," she announced to the galaxy-wide news networks. "Any hostile action against human worlds will be met with immediate and overwhelming response." The threat was not empty. The quantum shipyards around New Busan and Earth were producing new vessels every month. Each ship was crewed by humans who had trained with the Retribution's crew, learning not just how to operate advanced technology, but how to think like warriors who never gave up. Admiral No Ji-hoon established the new Galactic Defense Command, with headquarters on New Busan. The symbolism was intentional. The world that had nearly been destroyed was now the center of human military power. "We do not seek to dominate the galaxy," Admiral No Ji-hoon explained in his first address to the other species. "We seek to ensure that no species, human or alien, ever again faces the choice between slavery and extermination." As the first year after the battle drew to a close, Captain Seo Ji-ho made a decision that surprised everyone. He announced that the Retribution and her crew would remain permanently in this timeline. "We have found what we were searching for," he explained to his assembled crew. "A timeline where humans can live free, where families can grow up in safety, where our species has a future among the stars." Engineer Yoon Tae-hyun had already begun designing a new class of exploration vessels. If we are staying in this reality, then we should help humanity reach its full potential. The technology we brought can open doors to discoveries that neither of our timelines achieved alone. Dr. Park Ji-won was working on educational programs that would teach human children about quantum science from an early age. The next generation will grow up understanding these principles naturally, she said. They will develop capabilities we can only imagine. The galaxy had reached a new equilibrium. The old system of strong species dominating weak ones was breaking down. In its place, a more complex web of relationships was forming, with humanity playing a central role as both protector and innovator. On the first anniversary of the 4-minute battle, Captain Seo Ji-ho made his final log entry about the mission that had brought him to this timeline. We came from a reality where humanity fell because we fought alone. We learned that isolation makes any species vulnerable, no matter how advanced their technology. In this timeline, we have helped humanity learn a different lesson. Our strength comes not from standing apart from the galaxy, but from showing them what happens when they force us to stand alone. Today, humans are no longer alone. We are part of a galactic community that respects our right to exist and grow. The children playing in New Busan's parks will inherit a universe where being human is not a crime punishable by death.